The views, opinions, and statements expressed in this program are those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Anything Entertainment Network.
Huey Newton founded the Black Panther Party with the help of his Oakland City College classmate Bobby Seale and his childhood friend David Hilliard. Writes.
So the concept is this, basically. The whole black nation has to be put together as a black army.
United States, with a readership of over 250,000 per week. Communities. Due to their growing popularity, FBI Director.
So the concept is this, basically. The whole black nation has to be put together as a black army.
Back or you'll be arrested for obstruction.
Then arrest me, but you're not taking it without probable cause.
Democracy. Alright? And we already know that, right? Didn't Malcolm say that democracy is nothing but plain hypocrisy? What's it called?
Free the land, you understand?
That's right, free the land, you understand. That we are not going to survive the revolution, we have to build the revolution.
Buying our products, but also not enough that they don't need to keep working for us.
It felt like scripture, you know what I'm saying?
A sober analysis and like what is the actual need in your community.
What was the role and purpose of the police here?
These folks were, and how and what their role was.
Does not detract in any way from any organization doing what they're doing.
Asata Shakur, so we lift up all of those names and all those who we were able to bring home who are still with us.
I'm Jalil Mutakim, and you have the podcast of We Are Our Own Liberators. Assalamu alaikum. Peace, Jumbo, Hafa Adea, Shalom, Hareen, whatever your native language is, I wish you peace and solidarity. This is Jalil Mutaki. You had another special session of We Are Our Own Liberators podcast. The podcast is being streamed by Anything Entertainment Network and produced by Black Dragon Multimedia Enterprise. And for us today, it's extremely important to us to understand that we are moving towards or getting closer to the national mobilization against genocide on July 4th, 2026 in Atlanta, Georgia. And by virtue of this development, we have a very special guest from Bolivia. And also I have my co-host here, Matt Myers, who's also a special person, a strong organizer of international development for our movement going here in the United States as well as many parts of the world, Latin America, Asia, and Africa. Matt will provide an overview, right, a bio of himself and as well as Vivian. And with that, I'm going to take a moment, step back, let Matt take care of business, and then we will get into some very serious discussions about what's going on here and other parts of the world. Matt, please take it.
Well, Baba Jalil, thank you so much, and assalamu alaikum to you. Sister Vivian, you don't know this, but the intro that Baba Jalil just gave is his intro all the time, multi-language greetings and love that he opens everything with. And I'm yet not sure whether he has that peace and love greeting in your language, in the language of Quechua. So can you tell us what the Quechua peace and love greeting is? Vivian, how do you say peace and love in your indigenous language in Quechua?
I will give my introduction in Quechua and I will explain.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let me do what Jalil asked me to do, which is give a little context. It's a great honor to be here, both because Baba Jalil is such an inspiring figure to so many of us, and Vivian, in the short years I've known you, you have been the same. I think hopefully most of the listeners and viewers have seen other of Baba Jalil's podcasts. We are our own liberators, and know something about the 2021 International Tribunal of U.S. human rights abuses against Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples. That tribunal follows on the legacies of many people. We stand on the shoulders of giants. So W.E.B. Du Bois, Paul Robeson, and William Patterson, 70 plus years ago, 1951, 70 years before the tribunal brought a charge of genocide, mainly focusing on Americans of African descent, to the United Nations. It was a petition that never was answered, although it was accepted. There have been many tribunals and many calls for tribunals. Minister Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, of course, famously in the last years of his life in the development of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, said that the U.S. and its crimes cannot be judged in its own courts. It had to be taken to an international tribunal. Baba Jalil, I don't know if he'll bring it up now, is beginning to write about the fact that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King also talked about the genocidal policies of the U.S. So in 2021, we held this tribunal. It actually also drew on the tradition of a certain person who was in prison at the time, Jalil himself, who said that the international jurists from all around the world that had visited some of the U.S. political prisons, including Jalil, needed to come back and return. And then some former political prisoners who are out, and political prisoners campaigners like myself, Baba Sekou Odinger at the center, but also Jihad Abdul Mamit and Oscar Lopez Rivera, said, let's put together a tribunal, unlike some of the ones done in the 70s and 80s, and even the ones done in the 90s and 2000s, like them, in that we would bring together an independent group of jurists to look at U.S. crimes unlike them, in that we would not simply focus on any one particular so-called single issue, like political prisons, which is its own multi-issue single issue, but that we'd look at 5 interconnected charges that would amount to, in total, continuing, ongoing, 200 plus years of U.S. genocide. Again, listeners to Jalil's podcast will know the 5 counts, but I'll repeat them here quickly for people. They are mass incarceration, continuation of slavery by other means, 13th Amendment, etc., political imprisonment, police killings and police violence, environmental racism and devastation, and health inadequacies and unequal health care. And the U.S. was, of course, found guilty on all charges, those 5 counts, continuing genocide against Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples through a distinguished panel of jurists. I'll actually take the time out, because we're here and because it's present right now. I am expecting a box of books tomorrow, inshallah. Finally, we've been waiting for months and months, of a book called Guilty of Genocide. It's a book that I had the honor of co-editing with Baba Jihad Abdul Mamit and Sister Tomiko Shine, and the profound honor of co-authoring a chapter with Jalil on the international dimensions and ramifications of the 2021 tribunal and our work. One aspect of our work is the People's Senate. One aspect of our work is the July 4th mobilization. Forgot the date for a second. And one aspect of the work is ongoing international relations. And it is in that context that Sister Vivian is such a key figure. Part of my work, in addition to Spirit of Mandela, has been with a group called the International Peace Research Association. Through that work, we've learned of many scholars, activists, and academics all throughout the world, every corner of the world. And in fact, in particular, we learned of one group, Doctors for Global Health, that does work mainly in Latin America and a little bit in Africa, that decided that their entire organization, we were in touch with them a year ago, and they said, what? It was just after we had made the call for July 4th in Atlanta, and they said, well, let's change our whole international plans. Let's hold our international Congress in Atlanta so that all of our members from all around the world could come to Atlanta for our Congress and also stay for the mobilization. So we're excited about them. And we reached out to other doctors. And in the world of doctors who do not work for money, but work for the people, in the world of doctors who work like Dr. Che Guevara, Argentine, who made his reputation in Cuba, but then ended up being killed in Bolivia. There are very few people who live in that legacy as directly as Vivian Camacho Hinojosa. So I won't say much more because I really want this platform to be Vivian's. But it is to say that Vivian is one of the people who stands in solidarity. From the very first time we met in person, she was giving the closing address at an IPRA conference, talking about all of the interconnections between healthcare internationally, between the idea of Western health, and she's a trained surgeon, and also traditional, ancestral, indigenous health that she learned as a midwife and healer in the Quechua tradition. It is true she also rose to the position of Deputy Minister of Health in the progressive Bolivian government that just ended. So twice she was Deputy Minister of Health in that position. But that's hardly the most significant thing that Vivian does. She's a true grassroots radical activist. And the fact of the matter is I have to tell this story, as Vivian has heard me tell many times. The first time I met her in person, when she was closing the keynote closing for the IPRA conference that happened to take place in Trinidad. We had given her one of the booklets. It was a couple of years after the 2021 tribunal. We gave her one of the copies of the booklet, We Still Charge Genocide. She looked at it quickly, but she was preparing for her talk. She looked at the back of it quickly. She saw a name she knew because she had studied the Black Panther Party. She saw a poem that looked exciting. The poem was by Sister Asada Shakur. And she closed her plenary. She closed her remarks for that closing group of that conference by reading Asada's poem and doing a tribute, linking and connecting all of the things from healthcare to genocide, North and South, to indigenous and African and all peoples, all around the world looking for liberation. So a true liberation fighter, a true doctor for the people, a true friend and comrade. Vivian, I can't give any more introductions, and there's nothing more I want to say. Now we want to hear from you.
Thank you so much. You are so kind. My dearest brothers, alaikum salam. In Quechua, I would say, sumah punchay kachun tukuy kunapach, hatunapay kuy tukuy gangunapach, no gasuti Vivi Camacho, hagay Bolivia kolyasuyumanta hamorgani, hatunapay kuy tukuy gangunapach. That's my mother language, which is Quechua. And I'm so honored to be sharing this, our voices now with you both and our dearest brothers and sisters that are going to listen this, because our words may be seeds. Our words may be carried on like the words of our dearest ancestors. They fought for us. They left the life for us. Now we are the seeds of the future generation. So I do want to start saying, asking for permission to this sacred land, asking for permission for our sacred ancestors of our territories, and especially the ones that fought for our liberation, especially for the ones that even they did not meet us, but they knew we were going to be born. So here we are. It's because of them that we are here, that we are alive. It's because of them that they have dreamed a world with dignity, with respect, a life with social justice, a life without racism, that we would be alive here today to share this dignity, this struggle as humanity. Thank you so much for inviting me here. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction you have done. My gratitude is so deep because it's amazing how life makes us find people that even though we don't know each other, but we are struggling the same pathway, the same pathway for freedom, from dignity, for social justice. because all of us as humankind, we all deserve this, no matter the color of our skin, no matter the language we speak, no matter where we were born, we all belong to life. So when you were asking me what it is, peace and love, there is not only word that would define this. Peace is the state complete integrality, the integrality and equilibrium harmoniously. So we would address to summa causae as part of that piece. Summa causae, this beautiful idea that was translated into living well, vivir bien, but this translation is not enough because summa causae, summa means the most beautiful in Quechua. A beautiful woman, sumach warmi, such a beautiful woman. Sumach is the superlative of well. So sumach causai means what makes us alive. Causai is mother life. Causai is what makes you alive today. Causai. So it's not only living well. Sumach causai is whatever it is for you, for your heart, for your spirituality, that makes you alive today is the most beautiful, the most beautiful. And also, summa causae is referred to that we are designed, we are supposed to be in this life to bring beauty to this world. And this beauty is based on dignity, is based on sovereignty, is based on freedom and social justice for our people. This beauty has to do with no one left behind, no one being treated like trash, no one being treated like the patrones, the enslaved, the masters who enslaved us, they would treat us like animals before. They would see us as indigenous peoples and Afro-descendant people here in this continent. They would see us like animals that do not have any right. But now it's another time. We call this Pachacuti. Pacha means Mother Earth. Kuti means it is upside down. So, when before in the previous time of this Pachacuti, the wisdom of our ancestors, our people, our land, everything was so humiliated, so mistreated, so enslaved. But now the Pachacuti is upside down, so it is being born again from the deep heart of Mother Earth. So it means no matter they thought they would have, they thought in their idea that they would the project of extermination of our peoples. They did not get this because they tried to do this in our territories more than 500 years ago. And when we talk about indigenous resistance and Afro resistance, we are talking about more than 500 years of cultural resistance. That's why we need to remember that we as indigenous peoples and Afro descendants are in the world millenary ago. So we need to remember that we are millenary people alive because of the wisdom that we have preserved alive. So when we are talking about this Pachacuti, it is the ancient wisdom of our peoples is coming alive because the strength of Mother Earth is alive every time we see a little sprout come out from the earth. Is her strength, her beauty, her love that is coming out, but also the strength of mother life that we call this Kausai Mama. Kausai Mama, she's giving us strength all the time whenever we see the stars, we see the sun, we see the moon, when our eyes take contact on this light. We are remembering that we belong to sacred cosmic cycles of humanity, of life. So we are millenary people remembering our deep ancestral roots, and we are alive today not because of this Western modern science that was left behind, and even academic spaces are so racist today. So I was talking about the sacred mother life, how she is so strong and powerful, and every time we see the sun, the moon, the stars, we do remember we are cosmic creatures walking this earth. So we are millenary people, and our struggle, our resistance is centuries ago. That is why we need to remember that we belong to life. We belong to life with dignity, and that we belong all together, no matter where we are from. When we find each other in the needs, for example, there is a a company with a so greedy company that comes to the land to take the land of our people and throw away our people, and they poison the water, they poison the air, and we do not have any way to live. So that's why we stand strongly for the right to land and territory. But when we talk about health, it's not only a sector, it's not only a little piece of science. When we talk about health for indigenous and ancestral visions, it's about health of whole community and the land. Without land, there won't be any health, because inside the land we have water sources, we have our sacred places, we have our ancestral wise people alive. And when we are talking about health in our integral ancestral way of view, it has to do with recognizing again the wisdom alive, that is why we are alive today, because we have had generations of people that have taken care of one another, one after another. And that taking care had to do with the struggle, with the fight for the rights, for land, for dignity, for water, for food, because none of it is granted. All of our rights, all of the rights we have today, it's because our ancestors, they fought for it. Otherwise, capitalism just wants us enslaved. When we have seen 2 days ago that stupid news about this trillionary, I won't even mention him, because whatever comes a million above million, billion, trillion, that is nonsense, stupidity, saying that millions, that they do not come from any effort, that millions come from the death, the sickness, the abuse, the mistreat, the enslavement of human beings. Millions of human beings are being are feeding the capitalist beast, because it's awful how they are still treating the global south as if we were their colonies, as if we were the slaves. They don't want to see that we are sovereign people, that we have self-determination. They don't want to see us, because we have ancestral science alive that made us be alive today. That is why we need to, wherever we are, continue this struggle, remembering that even if you are in the community, in the academy, working, whatever you are doing, when you are honest, when you do this with good heart, when you do this with what you love, you are transforming things. That's why inside academy also we need to be strong and promote, denounce this racism in academia, epistemic racism, because epistemic racism denies the way we have the ways we have to be in the world and understand the world, which has to do deeply with our ancestrality and spirituality, our own spirituality alive. Because when conquerors came to this land, they have brought a culture, they have brought a religion that was based on the murder and killing and submission of millions of human beings, and they performed the extirpación de idolatrías, idolatry extirpation, which was for them killing all of our grandmothers and grandfathers that were healers, midwives, herbalists. They were farmers, agriculture people that would know how to talk with the climate, that would know how to work with the land, with the earth, that would know how to continue preserving the sacred cycle of seeds so we can have food and self-determination. That is why we now do strong advocacy for the right to remember, the right to our ancestral memory, the right to our ancestral spirituality, not as a folkloric adorn, not as a folkloric little thing they put us like those indigenous or those Afro or whatever they call us minorities in a folkloric view, like a part of, we will give them little space inside capitalism so they don't bother. We are not talking about this. We are talking about the wisdom, the whatever we have inside our cultures, food, music, sharing, singing, medicine, all of it. What is our culture? It has to do with cultural historic resistance. It's not any folkloric vision for the show or the tourist. It has to do with our cultural heritage. It has to do with this cultural vision of sharing who we are and how do we see the world. How do we relate to Mother Earth? How do we relate to cosmic circles? How do we relate with the taking care of life, preserving life for the next generation? Because we know, even if we are not today, tomorrow, even whatever happens, because nobody knows what's going to happen, even we are not going to be here tomorrow, but the strength, the love, the courage that we as the ancestors of the next generation will live like the ancestors we had, it will remain. But especially it will remain through example, living example of sharing, of solidarity, of dialogue, of encounter of between different worlds. I mean, different cultures. We can find each other together and learn from each other. I love how human diversity, cultural diversity, all of them take care of biodiversity. So when we are talking about health, not only for human beings, but health of Mother Earth, health for everything that is alive, we are making a strong advocacy for the health of the mountain, of the rivers, of the forest, of the jungle, of animals, and also for ourselves as part of this community of life. So we are not talking about a little issue of human health has become now a merchandise and a little sector inside the huge neoliberal capitalist model. But we are talking about now health as the right to have life with dignity, without violence, without racism, building bridges between the differences. Because in a culture, a monocultural view of the world has taught us to be afraid of the difference, to be aware of the difference, get away from the difference. But we are rediscovering that differences are amazing, beautiful, and it's because that differences that we will find the answers that this world in crisis needs. That's why we need to hear each other, learn from each other, and share what's going on. Global South must remain together. And here with the struggles in the global North, you need to know that none of us is struggling alone. Even though we have sad situations like one we are living now in Bolivia, even though it's going on, when we struggle for all of us, because we won't ever tolerate no one being mistreated on the street without eating, without water, without housing, because that on the street passing this is my brother, my sister. That is why we will never tolerate what is going on in genocidal situation like in Palestine. That's why we send solidarity, because even though I do not know them in person, I know what they are suffering, and I know that are my brothers, my sisters. We need to remember this. We belong to life as brothers and sisters. And Mother Life, she wants us, all of us, not me, not you only. No, it's all of us, to be happy, to be healthy, to smile, to embrace, to celebrate life. That's it, summa causai. A beautiful life shared, a beautiful life with your gifts. That is summa causai. We have forgotten how beautiful it is to get together. We have forgotten how beautiful it is to learn from each other. We have forgotten to celebrate life. But now, since there is Pachacuti, there was Yakipacha, the time of sadness. But since it's now Pachacuti, now it's Kusipacha, the time for joy. So we need to relearn again our joyful way of resistance, our joyful way to encounter dearest brothers and sisters.
Thank you very much for that explanation, that understanding of the faith and the belief and the cultural dynamics of the Bolivian people and their struggle. It reminds me of what you mentioned. It reminds me of several ideologies or thoughts that are coincides with what you talked about. For instance, in the African tradition, there's Ubuntu, and Ubuntu means it's a humanism, our connectedness. It is our shared identity. It is because of you I am, or because I am you are. Right? It builds our relationships amongst our common humanity around the world. Right? Particularly amongst people of, and I would say this deliberately, people of color. Right? Who are grown to understand our relationship to one another based upon our common enemy, the forces that opposes our very existence. In the Islamic tradition, there's a principle concept that says that God made men and women in different tribes and nations so they get to know each other and not for them to have anonymity or hatred towards one another, right? And it goes to indicate for us in terms of our human tradition that we are made differently in different ways in different parts of the planet, right? But that also means that we need to learn and converse with one another and build our relationships based upon our commonality. And our commonality is that we are human beings on this planet, this species on this planet that we call Earth or Mother Earth. And it's important for us to come to that understanding. Now, in regards to health inequities, which is the issue that we are raising here with the international, with our national mobilization on genocide that the United States has been found guilty of and the charge of genocide against us. One thing that you made mention of is that the system that we are opposing is anti-human, right? It opposes our common humanity, right? And as a result of that, it defies our capacity to evolve and grow. Now, on the basis of that, I want to share a couple of thoughts in regard to what Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz or Malcolm X and Martin Luther King stated. All right, Martin Luther King Jr. highlighted the extreme consequences of racism, stating that, quote, the ultimate logic of racism is genocide. That's the ultimate logic of racism is genocide. That's Martin Luther King who stated that, right? He further elaborated, quote, if one says that one is not good enough to have a job, that one is not have a job that is solid qualified for a job, if one is not good enough to have access to public accommodations, if one is not good enough to have the right to vote, if one is not good enough to live next door to another person, right? If one is not good enough to marry the daughter of a black person or a brown person because of their race, then at that moment, that person is saying that the person who is not good enough at all is the person not fit to exist or to have life, right? Malcolm X explicitly addressed the idea of black genocides in the 1964 speech, Ballot of the Bullet, and that he warned that the systemic oppression, violence, and exploitation of black people in the United States amounted to genocide, right? He also stated that the African Americans had the right to fight for their survival by any means necessary. He also touched that theme in his 1964 speech, Message to the Grassroots, where he framed America's treatment of black people as part of a global pattern of oppression and likened it to genocide as acts of colonized peoples worldwide. So we can understand that when they deny us our humanity, they're essentially saying that we have no right to live, right? Or only live for their benefit, or for their wealth, or for their growth and development and their prosperity, not for ours, right? And this is the reason why this national mobilization is so important here in the United States, and why we're making this outreach into the international community to bring an understanding that your enemy is our enemy, right? But your humanity is our Ubuntu, all right? Because you live, we live. Because who you are, we are, right? And that's important for us to understand that. As you said, the world is now flipping, turning back, right? The joy of resistance is a joy in knowing that we are restoring our humanity, our common humanity, right? And that's important for us to take into our hearts, right? And take into our souls. And believe you me, what you just shared with us, right? It warms my heart. It warms my understanding that we are all in this fight together, right? And with that said, and let me make one other caveat to everything I just said, right? About my dear brother Matt Myers. Some people do not know that he is a candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize for his work, both nationally and internationally, right? And so that's important for us to raise that up, and people understand the work that we're doing, right? The work is being recognized on one level or another, right? And it's important for us to understand that this is the revolutionary process. This is how we find joy, right, in our struggle. When we get the kind of recognition and get the kind of acknowledgement, right? Not only in terms of on a personal level, but in terms of what we're doing collectively, right? And so we're making these bridges, building these bridges in Africa, in Latin America, in South America, in the Caribbean, all right, in Europe, and various other parts of the planet, right? Because we understand that there are forces in this world who oppose our common humanity if it does not benefit their own personal and individual prosperity. That is the struggle. That is the fight that we engaged in. With that, I yield.
I want to come in here for a second to respond to what Baba Bill said. But even before you said that, my dear brother, I wanted to say something that actually quotes from you. Look at, thank you both for your extraordinary contributions and for all that you teach me. You know, we folks of European, so-called European descent in the U.S., white people, don't understand enough how to be in coalition where we're not the leaders, where we're not the financiers, where we're not the center of all things. We don't really know how to take leadership from Black, brown, and indigenous peoples. So my best hope is to try to be an example here in the belly of the beast, here in the empire known as United States of America. Nothing very united about it. We want to take leadership, and it's been amongst the privileges of my life, much more than white skin privilege has been the privilege of being able to learn from the two of you and others. The nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize can be much ado about nothing. The thing that makes me most humbled and honored by that is that I was nominated, and the organization I've worked with, International Peace Research Association, were nominated by existing Nobel laureates of some note, two in particular, and the family of a third that I have worked with for years. So from Latin America, the Argentine elder Nobel laureate Adolfo Pérez Esquivel, who himself was a political prisoner in Argentina back in the day. From Northern Ireland, the great peace campaigner Mariette Corrigan Maguire, who also has been a steadfast anti-colonial and anti-racist organizer in her struggles in Northern Ireland. And then I had worked for many, many years with Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa, Azania. He was maybe the person who most notably spread that concept of Ubuntu that, Jalil, you were talking about around the world. And I worked with him for years, and though he has passed, his children and his family joined in the endorsement. So it's an honor to be nominated by those folks. I'm connected to those folks in part because of my work for peace and justice and human rights. I'm connected with those folks because all three of them, Tutu in his day, Adolfo Perez Esquivel, and Meyer Corrigan Maguire, never said no to the opportunity to use their position and their stature and their Nobel Peace Prizes to fight for and sign petitions for and call for the releases of U.S. political prisoners, including Baba Julia, including Oscar Lopez Rivera, including Baba Sekou Odinga, including all of the folks over the last years when I've worked with them and we've tried to connect people internationally. And so their steadfast work to recognize what happens in the U.S., the injustices, the genocidal policies in the U.S., is part of what got them to understand my work, which is to say our work, which is to say collaborative work. I'm going to end my little comments now with this note, the thing I wanted to say. And by the way, I'm looking and things come on my screen, and the publisher, Africa World Press, and it is Africa World Press, just sent me a note confirming what I said earlier. They're overnight FedExing the books to me right now. So we will have those books for the conference that Vivian and I and Jihad Abdul Mumit will be at. In Amherst, we'll have those books for sure in Atlanta, and they're available online, Africa World Press, and wherever fine books are sold. But the chapter that Jalil and I co-wrote takes a page from the verdict of the International Tribunal finding the U.S. guilty of genocide. It's our chapter on internationalizing the struggle and giving context. And it's a chapter that looks at the part of the verdict that said that the idea, the very idea that genocide exists was uncontroversial in a way, incontrovertible. Genocidal policies against Native peoples, against African peoples, it's not news. It's just not what people use to think about U.S. as a not really democratic, not really peace-loving, not really human rights advocating place. And so the part of the title of our chapter, I must say it's a co-written chapter. I certainly had my part, but this part of the title is all Jalil's. It's all Jalil's. And the title, the first part is mine, just a very simple. Now I have to scroll back because I think I lost it. A very simple, heading that basically says internationalizing the struggle and understanding the international context. So that's simple. The internationalizing struggle against genocidal policy. But the title is Jalil's, and it speaks to the moment that we need to forge together, Vivian in the South and those of us in the North and all over the world. And Jalil's subtitle is this: what is incontrovertible must be opposable, resisted, and ended. And that's all Jalil. And I'm very proud to have that subtitle in our chapter. That idea, if it's incontrovertible, if it's clear, if it's definable, as the tribunal defined it, as we continue educating people about it and spreading the word all around the world wherever we go. Vivian, you're not the first or last person I gave that booklet to. You're just maybe the most vigorous person to pick it up and do something with it. If we can do that, then we can end this thing. We can build movements all around the world. We can even build movements across ideological and racial and ethnic and geographical and generational lines all across the empire and beyond, to end this monster of capitalist, racist, patriarchal imperialism, colonialism, and neocolonialism, of genocidal policies, which must be ended in order for humanity to win.
It would be remiss of me, it would be against my position as the podcaster, to not ask some very, pertinent questions in regards to you and the work that you do. So one of the questions I want to ask is, you are a mother,
Yes, my dear. I'm a Quechua midwife as well, and we
Okay.
are promoting respected birth in Latin America. I belong to the Latin America Association of Ancestral Midwifery, and we are promoting the respect for with birth with our ancestral rituals, so we can
Mhm.
receive babies in sacred space.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what brought you into the movement in and of itself? I mean, as a young woman, I imagine that you were really engaged in the struggle, or was forced into a situation where you had to become engaged. I don't know that story, and if you don't mind giving us abbreviated dynamic of the being that we know as Vivian.
You are so kind, Julia, to asking me this, and thank you. I'm so honored to be sharing with you both, dearest Matt, dearest Julio, dearest comrades, because when we interwove this interwoven textile of our words is part of the tapestry of our not only our experiences but what will make us stronger every day. So I come from indigenous community, very humble place. Even today we are suffering different situations, and we need to I need to address this because indigenous peoples in the world and Afro descendants in the world, we have um, the most elevated issues about problems with health, education, illnesses of all kinds, especially malnutrition, desnutrition, hunger, all over the world. So we need to address this because even now, for whomever from indigenous communities or from Afro-resistant territories, it's so difficult to go to university, to go to school, to get your grade because it's almost impossible. Because now rights have turned into merchandise for the market. So I do always acknowledge to my grandmothers when there were little ones, little indigenous children, niñas indígenas, pequeñas, they were little ones and they were forbidden and violated and forbidden to learn to write and read. Because when we get education, we know our rights. Even in the modern colonial education, when we learn those topics, somehow we have new tools to defend our community, to defend our rights. That is why my parents made a huge effort, so I was able to get education, public education in public university in Bolivia. That's why we struggle strongly now for defending the public, because the public is for all of us to get education, to get health. So we need to remember this: public is all of us, no matter where you are, whatever is public is yours. We need to defend the public because even though we do not agree with our governments, is the duty of the government to serve the people. If they don't do, we protest and we force them to do this because they are in servers of the people. So our people have struggled a lot. So we gained different laws, we gained different situations. Like in Bolivia, we had the first indigenous president. And that's why we have even gotten the health ministry inside Vice Ministry of Traditional Ancestral Medicine, which I was in charge. So I come from these people. I come from this hard reality. I became doctor because I wanted to do something about it. But when I was growing up and studying hard, I was a good student. That's why I ended up finishing my medical studies in Belgium, Ghent Hospital. So I worked there as surgeon doctor in Europe. Then I went back to Bolivia, but to me it was like a cultural shock, not only because of Europe, but especially because of very deep cultural issues, like the old ones being left behind. Even though they would have some service to come 2 or 3 times a week, children were far away, nobody was taking care of them. I had this patient, a little old lady, that she fell down the stairs, and 3 days later came the nurse to pick her up to the hospital. and she remained in that position 3 days. She, with her necessity, the cold and everything. I mean, that's nonsense. Is that evolution? Are we want? Do we all want to do this? We have a lot of questioning about the American dream, which actually is the nightmare of the world. We don't want to follow this consumism. The only freedom you have is the freedom of market, the freedom to buy if you have money. If you don't, you are just screwed up and you don't have any right. And that absurdity must end because capitalism is new in human history. Before our communities were able to share, to redistribute this with justice, with common sense, with respect for the differences, and we have archaeological testimonies of it. That is why when I became doctor and I went back to Bolivia, I would think I would perform this surgery perfectly, but my patients, they would not have to eat, they would not have to get money enough to get the medication, they wouldn't have proper cares because they would live in a violent place or very poor place with no healthy water, no healthy food. So what's the deal about this? That's why I started to question in all medicine, Western modern conventional medicine, and I said, oh my dear, maybe we are not doing the right thing because modern Western medicine is just racist and patriarchal when we analyze this. That's why when people ask me, I say, yes, I am a doctor for, well, I was formed at a university, monocultural, neoliberal, mercantilistic, patriarchal, colonial, racist. But that's why we need to change this.
Okay.
So,
So let me ask. So let me give you a little story. My baby sister, Leslie, she was 3 years old. At 3 years old, she said she wanted to be a doctor. She knew innately that she wanted to be a doctor, right? As she grew, she didn't become a doctor, but she became a surgical nurse. She sat right there with the doctor doing the work, right? So that's at 3 years old. But for some reason or other, she just knew. So you are suggesting that, or are you telling us that because of the conditions, the social conditions, the economic conditions of the indigenous at the time of your evolution, your development, right, as a young woman, right, as a young child and a niña, that you decided then that you want to be a doctor? Or when did you decide that you want to be a doctor?
I decided because my people were suffering and I wanted to do something about it. But when I had this experience in Europe, then I learned I've suffered an epistemological crisis because I was raised in another culture, in another ways, with fire healing ceremonies, with herbs, with different other ways to see the world. That's why I got also the specialization in interculturality and health. And when I was 9 years old, my father would get the diary of Che Guevara, Dr. Ernesto Guevara. He gave me this and he made me read and he would explain me. This man came for us. This man came to seed his life here. For us, we never say he was murdered or killed. We say he was seeded, so millions of us will be reborn again. So he's an ancestor of our people. We call him San Ernesto de la Higuera because La Higuera is the place when he fell down. La Higuera, San Ernesto, because he's a popular saint of the people. Because for our culture, when you are an ancestor, our ancestors from the spiritual world, they continue supporting us. So San Ernesto de la Higuera, he was a doctor, and I was so inspired by his life that I myself decided to be a doctor. Following the San Ernesto de la Higuera lessons, and one of the first lessons he left us is salud is the first illness we have to eradicate is social injustice. Otherwise, none of us will have health. That's why I became doctor, and I am part of the Guevarist movement and also Fundación Che Guevara more than 25 years ago. So I was little one when I joined the comrades, and of course, I since my 9 years I would knew who he was. So when I met them and I saw the pictures and I saw the books and I said, "Oh, I know who he is. I know what was he doing. Oh, I know this man." And now he's my particular inspiration, and I always take his words. Sean siempre capaces, o be always capable de sentir en lo más profundo, to feel in the most deep source of your soul, cualquier injusticia cometida contra cualquiera, whatever injustice committed against whomever, en cualquier parte del mundo, wherever part in the world. That's the most beautiful quality of a revolutionary. So, as a doctor, for me, it's part of my practical living to the community health, to the ancestral medicine dialogues that we are promoting more than 20 years ago, remembering that our community have wisdom and Western modern science needs to dialogue, be humble enough to learn from ancient wisdom to take care of our people. So, as you see, in Bolivia, if you check Bolivian history, we have overthrown different governments. We have always struggled together for our rights. Now we are doing the same. And mass media, they do not transmit. They just transmit the lies supported by imperialism and fascism and Zionism over there. But we know that our people, we as organized communities, we will continue struggling because our young generations, they deserve dignity. We all deserve respect. So we will continue struggling for our rights, no matter what. No, I mean, we do not need to be afraid of nothing, because if we become ancestors, we will be remembered like we do remember the ones that left behind, like Che Guevara, like Tupac Amaru, Tupac Katari, Bartolina Sisa, Micaela Bastidas, the ones that struggled for us. So we won't be enslaved again, because our dream, the dream of our grandmothers, grandfathers, you need to remember your grandmother, grandfather, they would dream, oh, my child will be born and they will have rights. Oh, my child will grow up and they will have happy, beautiful lives. So that's our dream. That's our motivation. That's why we are struggling all together. I do remember when I was in Washington, I went to Martin Luther King's memorial, and it was amazing because that man struggled for all humanity, not only for Black community or Afro descendants. He struggled for the dignity of all of us. So we need to remember our struggle is the same. No matter where we are born, we are all dreaming about someday that we can share, that we can learn, that we can have this Sumah Kausai, the Living Well project, which is indigenous ancestral memory with social justice, with the dignity for all of us. It's possible because we are making this possible. In this lifetime, we are, all of us, we are now building history. Now, as historical peasants of this little short time space, we are transforming the realities we touch, and we need to be aware of it. The powerful, they want us to think, oh, I am small women from the South, indigenous, they will not hear me or whatever. No, that's part of the colonization. They want to feel us as the helpless and small and senseless because they take us away our power. But when we remember, even I'm small, I have amazing human beings surrounding me, taking my hands. We are struggling together. The power of the little ones is strong and powerful. That's why we are here in this beautiful network.
Thank you for that, Vivian. It's very, very enlightening, right? And I really appreciate the fact that you revealed that it was Che Guevara that was your inspiration to become a doctor. That's fantastic. I mean, that shares a lot. And also at 9 years old, I remember one. at 9 years old, at that time when I was 9 years old, I was going to school and had to ride the bus to school. And for us black people, we had to ride at the back of the bus, or white people lived at the front of the bus because of Jim Crow. And so at one day at 9 years old, I decided I want to get up front. I want to sit up front with white people. And the bus driver told me, no, you can't sit up here. You know you're not supposed to do that. Go in the back. One white woman stood up and said, no, you sit up here with me. And that's what I did, right? And after she got off for a bus stop, the bus driver then turned to me and said, listen, she's gone. Now go back to the back of the bus. I stood up to look if anybody else would allow me to sit up front, right? No one else did. So what I did, I went to the back of the bus. But at 9 years old, that was a very good lesson for me. And the lesson was this, that despite the law being wrong, and people know the law is wrong, right? It's only be one person or two people who have the moral fortitude to stand up and say, no, I'm not with it. All right. And so I've been looking for that person every day, all day. Finding that one person had that moral fortitude, right? Had that capacity to say the law is wrong. I'm not living according to this law. The law is wrong. All right. I'm living according to my spiritual understanding of our universal humanity. Right. And that's what's important. And so your lesson at 9 years old was Che Guevara. My lesson at 9 years old was riding in the bus, riding in the back of the bus and saying, hey, we got to do more. We got to fight back. That we can't stand up against the system. All right. And thank you very much for sharing that with us, Vivian. It's very important. Matt, we're about ready to close out for this podcast. Do you have any parting words that you'd like to share with us in regards to this work that we're doing?
I'll try to say two quick things about solidarity and about ancestors. I think Minister Malcolm was famously asked, "Is there anything any white people you can like?" And at that time, El Hajj Malik Al Shabazz in Britain, I believe, said, "Well, we need more white people like John Brown." And for those who don't know, John Brown was a great abolitionist, a man who took up arms to be part of the struggle for an end to chattel slavery, Harriet Tubman. And there's actually several historic John Brown sites around the U.S. on July 4th who are doing events and looking to be with us. Some will be with us in person, but others are doing their own events. And part of it is because on July 4th in 1859, John Brown put out a declaration of his own, and it was not a declaration of independence and not supporting the Declaration of Independence. It was a declaration of liberty for all people. And in keeping with that, my dear brother, white anti-imperialist, former political prisoner David Gilbert, said, there are lots of things we can do as white people to make mistakes, lots of mistakes, and we're going to make mistakes. But the biggest mistake is to not get involved, to not show up, to not be there. So be there, whether you can come to Atlanta on July 4th, whether you can organize a watch party, whether you can join or build the People's Senate. We got to be there. Yeah, we'll make mistakes, but the biggest mistake is to not even get involved. And finally, just to say another word about ancestors, we know, and those of us like myself based in New York, based in Brooklyn, we know that the ancestors are with us, and it's our job to do the work. But sometimes we get a little bit of tip, a little bit of support, a little bit of nudge. And I use the word tip as a New Yorker this week intentionally because one of our great leaders, who was one of our greatest inspirations, Baba Sekou Odinga, has passed and left us. And it was a really deep gap. And we had to, as Spirit of Mandela Coalition, figure out how to adjust from his loss, because he was active and leading us to the moment, his last breaths. And yet, in addition to that leadership and many other profound things that Baba did as a general and as a soldier and as a comrade and as a peacemaker, he also was a fan of a group called the New York Knicks. Some of you might have heard of them. And looking down on us, we get support from the ancestors. We have to build the work on our own, but sometimes we get a little support. And sometimes that support comes in little tips that we don't even quite feel, but they're there. And we have to have faith in that, faith in the ancestors, faith in our own power, and faith to show up and make a difference.
Beautiful.
Show up and make a difference. It's very important. Very important. Sister Vivian, do you have any last party words you'd like to share with us?
Yes, this flag behind me is the Wipala. It's an ancient code, and it's encoded in different objects, ceramics, and also stone carved pieces. So we remind the powerful, the diversity, the rainbow, all the powerful that comes from diversity, human diversity, cultural diversity, all of them build beauty. Beauty, it's beautiful to be different, to be alive and share this. And I am so honored and moved to be sharing with you today, because I know that every day that we are sharing and doing this, we are seeding the words so they may fall into a heart-warming, like a seed you plant, and then they will flourish. We call this el florecimiento de los pueblos. Peoples will flourish beautifully. All of our gifts, all of us know something to take care of life. And that is the main tool we have for transformation. What we do with commitment, with gratitude, with love for life, it's so powerful. It can be someone that when you are crying, they clean you and they pamper you and then they embrace you. This is the power of tenderness. We need to remember that when we take care of each other, we are overpassing hundreds of years of violence and racism against our people. So we need to remember that when we take care of each other, we are transforming the world. When we take care of our beloved communities, brothers and sisters, all of them struggle in different conditions, we are transforming the world. Y yo quiero decirles esta linda canción, seguiremos adelante, como junto a ti seguimos, y con Fidel te decimos, hasta siempre, comandante. Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara. Love for life moves us. There is no other reason. We will struggle until the end, because the end is just a phrase. Because in a spiritual world, they are also supporting us. They are cleaning the tears and giving us strength. And when we cry, it's because we feel the wounds of the world. But we cry and we clean and gain strength, because crying is not for cowards. Crying is for brave people that will not submit, that will not give up. Thank you, brothers. Thank you, my sisters. Be strong. Be strong. Love deeply. Be strong.
Amen. Amen. You got me there. Me and my wife, we're crybabies. So I'm just what it's done. But anyway, you see this wall behind me? We have a wall behind me because our backs are against the wall. Right? Our backs are against the wall. Right? And we have to be able to push off this wall and fight back in unity. And with the heartfelt unity. All right? With solidarity. Not only here, but throughout the world. Okay. And I would like to close with this last passing message from my dear beloved ancestor, Che Guevara. He has stated that at the risk of seeming ridiculous, right, let me say that a true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love. And with that, I want to share that with you all. Love, solidarity. Thank you very much for taking this time. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Baba Julio.
Beautiful brother. Beautiful.
All power to the people. All power to the people. All right.
founded the Black Panther Party with the help of his Oakland City College classmate Bobby Seale and his childhood friend David Hilliard. Writes.
So the concept is this, basically. The whole black nation has to be put together as a black army.
United States, with a readership of over 250,000 per week communities. Due to their growing popularity, FBI Director.
So the concept is this, basically. The whole black nation has to be put together as a black army.
Back or you'll be arrested for obstruction. Then arrest me, but you're not taking it without probable cause.
Hypocrisy. Alright? And we already know that, right? Didn't Malcolm say that democracy is nothing but plain hypocrisy?
What's it called?
For the land, you understand?
That's right, for the land, you understand. That we are not going to survive the revolution, we have to build the revolution.
Buying our products, but also not enough that they don't need to keep working for us.
That felt like scripture, you know what I'm saying?
A sober analysis and like what is the actual need in your community.
What was the role and purpose of the police here?
These folks were, and what their role was.
Does not detract in any way from any organization doing what they're doing.
Asata Shakur. I mean, so we lift up all of those names and all those who we weren't able to bring home who are still with us.
I'm Jalil Mutakim, and you have the podcast of We Are Our Own Liberators.